Hello, hi, and welcome to the first video of 2023 on the Tanis Fiber Arts YouTube channel. I am Tanis. I am the creative director behind Tanis Fiber Arts hand-dyed yarns and designs. Calling myself a creative director makes it seem like it's a larger business than it is. It's me and my husband, Chris. Chris dyes the yarn and I do the rest. So I just don't always like to call myself a hand dyer because I don't dye as much anymore. Anyway, I design patterns, I knit a lot, and today I wanted to talk about everything I knit in 2022. This is going to be a big recap. This might be long. Settle in. I'll try to keep it interesting, but also I've sort of come to the realization that I'm overthinking my YouTube videos. That nobody is sitting down and just watching a video the way that you might watch, a really interesting film. You're sitting down, you're knitting, you're maybe cooking, you're typically doing something else while you're watching my video. And so it doesn't always have to be like incredibly plot driven and fast paced. It's okay if we just sort of chat, if I go off on tangents, and really we're just, keeping you company while you're actually focusing on something else, probably your knitting or crochet. So with that in mind, I'm going to try to be chill. I'm going to try to be a pleasant voice for you to listen to while you're doing this other thing that you love to do. And even though I find it a little bit daunting to talk about every single thing I made in 2022, I'm kind of excited about it. I think it'll be a cool way to not only talk about all of my personal knitting projects, I can sort of circle back and say which has been, I can touch on how successful they've been, how I feel about my yarn choice, how I felt about the project at the time versus now. I can also talk about every single thing that I designed this year, so it'll be both, that'll be included in this conversation as well. And what was the last thing? I thought it was a three-parter. Maybe it's just two. I'm looking here because I have my camera filming and then I've got my computer. So I'm on my Ravelry project page. Ravelry tells me I knit 30 projects in 2022. So we're going to go through that and I'll be able to tell you, more specific details because I've got them all on Ravelry rather than trying to just remember everything about these 30 projects. And I hope that this is kind of interesting. So I guess the first thing I'm going to mention is actually towards the end of the year. It's the thing that I'm wearing. So I'm going to go in chronological order except for this since I'm wearing it, so I'm going to tell you about it. This is an Oslo hat by Petite Knit, and I knit it in our Holiday Sock Club 2022, the tweed yarn that was included. The color is called Longest Night, and it is a really beautiful kind of navy blue with a layer of brown underneath it, and beautiful multicolored tweed flecks. I held two strands together, got a whole hat out of a single skein, and I really love it. And it's really saving my absolutely horrific hair day today, so we're all benefiting from me wearing this hat. So I'm going to sort of move to the side because I'm going to put up images of the project as I'm talking about it so that you'll know what it is, because some of them have been gifted, all of them have been worn. I don't have them all here to just hold up, and I'm hoping that sort of showing some images will be more helpful. So let's get into it. So thing number one, the first thing that I knit according to this is the Cool Bean hat. I think this is a lie. I think I knit this in 2021, but my Ravelry project page tells me that I did it in January of 2022, and that could be because that's when I published it. So this is a beautiful all-over cabled hat that uses one skein of worsted weight yarn. I don't have too much additional things to say about that. I'm worried that this will be a theme throughout the video. It's a beautiful hat. I wear it a lot. I love the color. I knit it in our garnet colorway. That is just a beautiful saturated burgundy colorway that because it's a winter hat, obviously. I live in Montreal. It's very cold outdoors. You're always generally, there's an overwhelming amount of dark colors in the winter. A lot of people wear black parkas or brown. Like, I don't know, things are just very dark and dim. And so bright colored, a bright red hat has been a very cheerful addition to my family's hat wardrobe. And I have 3 kids, and we can all share hats. Even my 4-year-old, who has what I would call a pretty small head. This hat in particular, it's very stretchy because it's ribbing and then stretchy cables, and so it fits a variety of heads. And so even though it's offered in a variety of sizes, I really feel like so many things are pretty versatile in terms of fit when it comes to hats. Not everything, but this one is. And so for a while there, my middle son loves a red hat. It's really quite funny, and so when he wears it, it's just delightful. So the Cool Bean hat, that was the first pattern that I published in the month of January. My goal for the year for 2022 had at one point been to publish a pattern every month, and I did not meet that goal. It's a big goal. I don't feel bad about it. I tried, I failed, I moved on. I'm happy with the stuff that I did release. And the thing about it is I like to knit other people's patterns, and sometimes I like to knit older patterns that I've already published, and sometimes, newer isn't always better. I don't want to just feel like I need to be releasing patterns because I've set myself some arbitrary goal. I'm really driven by inspiration and what I'm feeling at the time, and you just can't fake it. I can't push myself to do stuff that if I'm not like really passionate about it. Next project of the year. Oh, my Jagger sock set. So I released, obviously, you probably know, this was inspired, the whole sock set idea, from Summer Lee Knits, who she releases exclusively sock patterns, individual patterns, but then she'll also release sock sets, sort of like a theme, a bunch of patterns that all follow the same theme. And so I had knit the first sock that I knit from this set, from this collection, is called the Baguette sock, and it was a striped sock that I used one of our sock sets for. So a full skein of yarn with a coordinating mini makes up a sock set, and I wanted a pattern that I could sort of recommend to use one of our sock sets with, because that's obviously something that people would ask me a lot. I want to get a sock set. What pattern do you recommend? And so I designed this pattern specifically for that. And so it has a stripes at the top, stripes at the bottom. It's a striped sock. It's super cute. But I felt this is an underlying theme in my work. I have a real insecurity with making. I really want the patterns that I sell to be super good value to you, okay? And I felt like releasing a pattern. The Baguette sock is essentially just, I have a free pattern called the All Reliable sock pattern, which is a classic top-down sock. It's my go-to top-down sock. I also have another free pattern called Trusty Toe Up. If you didn't know, both of those patterns names come from Lady and the Tramp. I must have been watching it with my kids. So All Reliable and Trusty are things that come up. I was going to say they're the 2 dogs' names, the neighbor dogs, but no, one of the neighbors is Jock. All Reliable and Trusty. I think it's one of the bloodhound's name is Trusty and was his like grandfather's name, All Reliable. Anyway, that's a deep cut for you. But I have those 2 free sock patterns, and like if you just want to if you want to use that free pattern, add some stripes at the top and the bottom, that's super easy, and you don't need to buy this pattern to do that. And so I wasn't super comfortable releasing a pattern that's just like work a couple stripes and then charging you for it, even though every time I bring this sort of thing up, unanimously friends, fellow designers, and knitters say, you can absolutely do that. So if you're a designer thinking about doing something like that, I mean, do it. The fact that you've added your stripes, like there's only so many ways to knit a sock, right? Like I don't have to reinvent the top-down sock construction every time I release a new sock pattern. The stripes is frankly enough. If it's super detailed, you've told them exactly how to do it. That makes value in a pattern. But inspired by the sock set concept, I decided to do 2 other patterns with the same sort of vibe that use a sock set to create a beautiful sock. Okay, so I have the baguette, which is striped. I have the bauble socks, which feature a really cute little color work up around the top. I've also included instructions in each of the socks to make them, sort of tall, medium, or short. And then I have the bijou socks, which is maybe I like them all actually for different reasons. I really like the bauble and bijou the best, I think. But the bijou socks, another variation on the theme. So they're all, did I write them all top down or bottom up? I don't recall actually. So at any rate, the three patterns together, the bauble socks, the bijou socks, and the baguette socks. I'm sure I said whether they're top down. Toe up. Toe up. I knit them all. The instructions are for toe up socks with a short row heel, and then there's 3 variations. Perfect for your sock sets, and I'm really happy with this little collection. So that was, how many socks did I knit for that? I think I knit 3 pairs of socks for that. And then my mother knit 1 pair of socks. I had another pair of the bauble socks. Oh no, I knit 4 pairs of socks for this collection. Anyway, I knit a whole bunch of socks and I love them all. Next up, oh, you know what else I can add is that in one of the pairs of bijou socks, I tried something different where I held mohair with the merino for the heels and toes. And I have a little bit of thoughts about that. I have some feedback. One, it's super lovely, okay? It's supposed to add strength. It adds durability to your heels and toes. And so since I was using a bunch of odds and ends for this project, I used some pure wash sock for the heels and toes and pure wash fingering. Our pure wash sock is made with organic, non-superwash, organic merino, but it's been treated to make it non-felting. And there's recycled nylon content in pure wash socks, so it's perfect for socks. Pure wash fingering is just 100% untreated. Oh my God. It's like I've never talked before. It's treated. It's 100% non-superwash merino, but it has been treated to make it non-felting. Okay, I've talked about this in previous episodes. You can find information on this process on my website. The difference between superwash and this is that superwash is coated with a polymer coating, essentially like a plastic coating that really changes the properties of the yarn, of the wool, and is really bad for the environment. Whereas the process that the pure wash yarns go through to make it non-felting, because superwash, the desire is also to make it washable and non-felting. I never say washable because I still definitely encourage you to hand wash, whatever you've got. The more you throw it in the washer and dryer, even if it is superwash, it's going to show its wear and it won't be as beautiful for as long. Pure wash fingering, since there's no nylon content, I don't find it wears as well for socks. So I held mohair together for the toes and heels, and it adds durability, it adds thickness. I didn't love knitting with it because I'm still knitting on these tiny needles with like a thicker yarn. It makes it a little bit more cumbersome to knit, but the results are really cute. You get these, fuzzy toes and heels, and they wear better. And if you can get through just knitting, a toe and thicker yarn than you would like to, it's worth it. Okay, next, we've got the Iggy Peck cowl. This was my 3rd, and I was on track here. I had a pattern for January, February, and March. So in March, I released the Iggy Peck cowl. Oh my gosh, and I loved this. This was the beginning of a love affair. So I've been thinking about designing an Iggy Peck sweater for years, and I knit a cowl as a swatch to see how my motifs were going to line up and how it was going to look, and I completely fell in love with it. So I knit a black and white one, and then I knit a colorful one. The black and white one I knit using just leftover scraps of pure wash DK, and then the colorful one I knit in Highland DK, which is a totally untreated wool yarn that we started carrying in March, and that's why I was able to, and I know it wasn't March, I think we started carrying it early in the year. Regardless, it's why I finally felt like I could design this Iggy Peck sweater, because as I worked through the design, it became apparent to me that it was going to have to be steeked. And in order to steek the sweater, I wanted to have a grippy, totally untreated wool yarn that would be well suited to steeking. And before we introduced Highland DK, before we started stocking that, I didn't have a yarn that fit the bill. So this pattern sort of sat in the back of my mind. And then when we started stocking this yarn, I was like, this is it. The stars are aligning. And so I knit this really fun, colorful version of the cowl just because I wanted to knit the cowl twice. I wanted to play around with the colors because even though in the pattern, the book, so Iggy Peck is a character in a children's book that this sweater was inspired by, and his sweater is black and white. And so my vision for it was black and white, was just two colors. But once I started, you see like the horizontal bands of the motif developing, I could not stop thinking about how fun it would be to play with different colors for it. So I knit this really colorful version, and boy, do I love it. And boy, am I not still super tempted to knit myself a sweater in exactly this palette. Never say never. I would really like that. So that's the Iggy Peck cowl. That then led to the Iggy Peck sweater, which I will get to when it comes up chronologically in my Ravelry projects. So then next up, I have my non-ombre cardigan. So the ombre cardigan is a pattern that I released, I believe, in 2011. And I knit it using 2 strands of lace weight yarn held together in 2 different colorways. So I started with 2 strands of cobalt of a bright blue, then I switched to 1 strand of cobalt and 1 strand of midnight, a navy blue, and then 2 strands of midnight. So it graduated into between, made 3 different colors from 2 different colors. You know what I mean? It ombrated, and my sample was quite fitted. It was a small little cardigan in this 3-color ombre. It was knit in a yarn that we stopped carrying years ago, a superwash merino late waist yarn that was called Pink Label Lace Weight, and that we discontinued that a while ago. And so I wanted to revamp the pattern with a more modern silhouette for me, in a style that I tend to wear more because I don't wear super tight cardigans anymore as much. And since the only lace weight yarn that we consistently stock at the moment is mohair, and since we all love mohair, and we all love 2 strands of mohair held together, I knit a new sample in 2 strands of mohair held together. 2 different colors, but I didn't alternate them and make the gradient, which you totally could. I just was going for something totally different with this sweater. And gosh, do I ever love it. Yeah, and then we released a bunch of kits in different color combinations. It was really hard to choose what color I wanted to do for my sample, so I just sort of closed my eyes and picked something, and I'm really happy with it. It ended up like a really light, dusty, pinky gray color, but then because I just love to experiment with color, I knit a whole bunch of swatches in a variety of colors, which are available on the site as kits for this sweater, and I love so many of them that, of course now I would like one in a bolder color choice. This one's really soft and feminine and romantic, and it really suits the silhouette of the garment. It's really lovely, but they all are. So this was fun, and this is also another sort of theme in my work. I love reimagining older patterns. I made no changes to this pattern other than the fiber, not doing the ombre, and I just knit a larger size, a size that I would tend to knit today versus how I wore my silhouettes back in 2011 or 2012 when I released this. And it's just a totally different garment, and I just love that. I love the versatility and sort of reimagining and reigniting the passion for an older pattern. So that brings us, oh yes, to the Iggy Peck sweater. So after I had the cowl in black and white, I was confident in my gauge and the swatch. I loved the way the motifs looked. It was all working out. I cast on for the sweater version, and I knit that for my son. Could not be happier with it. I knit it in black and white. He wore the heck out of it. Unfortunately for me, my son is 9 going on 10 and just growing like a weed, and this sweater is really pushing it to be too small for him. And luckily I have 3 kids, and so it's passed on to my middle son now. But my oldest just loved it so much, and he may request a new one. Anyways, so it's not really unfortunate. Kids grow, I guess that's the unfortunate thing. But gosh, I love that sweater. It's so It's like, if we're talking, okay, we're doing a year in review for 2022, the Iggy Peck sweater is the thing that I'm the most proud of. I loved that design. I thought about it for years. It was really quite challenging for me in a lot of ways. I think I have a previous episode where I really went into detail about this design and the challenges that it put forth. And I'm just so thrilled with how it came out. And every version that I've seen of it is gorgeous. And I'll never get over it. So the Iggy Peck sweater in black and white. I love that one. Next up, it's the Floodlight series of patterns. Gosh, I was really on a roll. When did I think I published this pattern maybe in May. So I did Iggy Peck, the sweater, the cowl, and then the Floodlight. So the Floodlight tee, I designed an adult version for my son. I did the child version first. Again, inspired by, you'll see actually, that this sweater, this tee that I knit for my daughter is in a really similar color palette to the bijou socks that I knit, and it's one that I just really love. It's like a speckled gray with the goldenrod, sort of like a kind of acid yellow color. I love that gray-yellow color combo, and I was inspired by the idea of using a sock set to knit something other than socks. So I knit this child-sized tee using one sock set, and it's got little pockets, which I love. It's got a round yoke with stripes in the yoke. It's got an I-cord detail that ties at the back of the neck. I just think it is so sweet. I think it is just the perfect little child's knit, and yeah, I'm obsessed with it. So I knit one for my daughter. I do have some feedback on how this was received. Poorly. I love the color combo. She did not love the color combo of this one. So after I knit this, because she prefers brighter colors, and the gray throws her off completely. She likes the yellow. It's bright and cheerful, and she can get excited about that. Even though the gray has speckles in it, and I try to really highlight that there's hot pink speckles in that gray base, she's just like really not interested. So then I knit her a second one, because I very often knit my sample patterns twice, just to sort of test it out, and I'm doing so much troubleshooting when I knit the first version that I knit a second one just to sort of confirm my ideas. And so for the second one, I used a deconstructed fade sock set from Shirley Bryan yarn. The color was called We Children of the Tides, which is, I'm sure, a reference to something that I don't know. Tell me if you do know what that's referencing. And this one is way more up her alley. So because the deconstructed fades come in two matching skeins, what I did is I wound them both into cakes, and then I alternated every round. I think at the beginning I was alternating every 2 rounds because the very top is knit flat, and so I would just go back and forth with one skein, back and forth with the other skein, and that sort of just makes the colors transition together because the 2 skeins are matching. And so it's a way to take 2 half skeins, 2 50-gram skeins, and turn it into one matching 100-gram skein, right? And this one she was way more thrilled with, and it's hilarious. If you see the picture of her in the little gray and yellow one, she's all like serious and like she's cooperating, but not a ton. And the picture of her in the purple and pink and the bright one, she's just like all giggles. She's so happy. It's really funny. This child, she does not, pretend to like things to make me happy. I will tell you that. So yeah, that's so cute. And I'll tell you again though, she doesn't wear this much. And I'll tell you why. She gets hot and she's like, Mom, if it's hot enough to wear a t-shirt, then it's too hot to wear a sweater. So she feels that the wool is too warm for her. She really is, like, she's funny because she's the smallest little thing, but she runs hot. Her blood is pumping. So I have had her successfully wear it as a sweater over like a long sleeve tee, because then she can sort of get around, like she can understand, she's like, it's cold, I'm wearing a sweater. But any time that it's sort of like t-shirt warm enough, she's like, I'm not wearing a sweater, I want to wear a t-shirt. So I'm just going to be honest with you, I feel like that's a bad sales pitch for my pattern, but you need to, you know your kid. Is your kid going to wear it? Are they not? When she was a baby and I was more responsible, I had more power in what she wore, then she would have worn the dickens out of this, because I would have put her in it every day. But now that, you know, she dresses herself and makes all her own decisions, she doesn't reach for this particularly often. But you just never know. So then that segues into the adult version of the same pattern. So of course, it was so cute, I wanted an adult version for myself. You could knit it exactly the same using all merino yarn, all sock yarn, but what I opted to do was use our willow fingering weight yarn. So our willow yarn is a linen silk blend fingering weight yarn. And because I wanted to mimic the stripes of the child version, but I did the stripes in a coordinating mohair rather than another opaque fingering weight yarn. And so that just gives the illusion in my sample. It's just like you got stripes, but they're sort of translucent. And now the sample, I knitted in charcoal. No, I knitted in, the mohair is deep space, which is a really dark gray. And then the linen is charcoal, which is also a really dark gray, but they're different shades. But there's not a ton of contrast between my mohair and my linen stripes because of my color choice. I think it's really pretty. It's really subtle. In person, you can see it more in some of my pictures. It's not super evident, but it's there. And so depending on your choice of color and fiber for this, you can get totally different looks. And that is proven by my next, of course, then I knit another Floodlight tee because I just, I get so wrapped up in things. And I knit this one just in all solid stripes of merino. And this one is so cute. Every time I wear this, my mom says literally, "Oh, that's so cute." So, if you want my mom to like your tea, this is the one. So this one I used our organic merino fingering because we have been out of stock of our pure wash fingering. I think it's been like 2 years. That is, a big part is pandemic related. Another part is business owner related. But it's coming back. It should be in stock, if not this month, then next, and I am so excited. In the meantime, I've tried a bunch of other fingering weight yarns, including this organic merino fingering, which is just an untreated merino wool. Really lovely. We've got it available in the shop. And we had mini skein sets, and we did a capsule collection last year of 14 different colors in this yarn, which I absolutely adore. And I took the colors and I knit myself a striped tee. I didn't use every single color in the collection just because of length issues. I had it all set up to do it that way. And then as I was knitting it, I was like, whoa, first of all, two of the colors, the two speckled colorways, I didn't like the way that they were going in my order. It was making the bottom of the sweater just all like one kind of neutral blob rather than it looked like a totally different sweater than the top, which was these really crisp, bright stripes. So I did some editing, removed some colors, switched things around, and I love the resulting tee. It could be one of my other favorite things that I knit last year. And so it's the exact same pattern, the exact same size. I made no modifications whatsoever between this one and the one that I knit in the linen silk in willow. And you can see the way that like the fiber affects the drape. The linen silk one is much slinkier and drapier. This one kind of holds its own a little bit more. You know how wool is like sort of bouncier? I'm like, it's like really perkier. And then without the mohair, you don't have the translucence. And then I did the stripes. I just did equal sized stripes all the way top to bottom. And this one has more of like a vintage vibe. I find this one quite 70s. Obviously, I lean that way in my personal aesthetic. I just love it. Can't get enough of it. So this one, my Floodlight tee, something I loved last year that I designed. Oh, then I was really on a roll designing a pattern every month and releasing it, and things were going super, super well. And then I think I kind of lost my passion. I got distracted. I started seeing other things that I wanted to knit, and that's the problem. A lot of designers don't have the time to knit other designers' patterns because they're full-time designers and they're really, it takes so much time to design a pattern and to knit your own samples and stuff. There's not a lot of leftover time for just fun and experimenting and for me, because I'm not a full-time designer, it's not my only job, I'm so grateful that I'm able to, if I'm inspired by somebody else's design and I just love it and I want to cast on, I just do. Because it's so important to me that I be really, keep that passion for knitting alive, because it's my job, and it could get, you know what I mean, when you turn your hobby and you turn your love into your job, there's this fear, this risk that it just becomes work. And I think that if I didn't let myself knit the things that I want to knit when I want to knit them, that's definitely at risk of happening. So if I'm inspired, by somebody else's yarn, somebody else's design, and I just really want to knit with that at the moment, then that's what I do. And so here I knit a ripple bralette by Jessie Made Designs, and no regrets. Absolutely love it. So this is a special project when I'm looking at it. I think what happened, the reason why I jumped into this is because I found we moved in 2020. It's 2023, and I'm still talking about it. Moving is such a big deal, because then we embarked on a full house renovation, and so my move feels like it lasted 2 years. And I found my ripple bralette. In the move, it was packed, and then in the reno, it was packed again, and it was in a box of stuff with, I think, a bunch of socks and pantyhose. I don't wear pantyhose ever, and so that it was gone for a very long time. It was not missed, the pantyhose. But then I found the box. I was like, oh my gosh, my ripple bralette, look at this cutie little thing. And I put it on, felt so cute, just absolutely loved it, and then remembered that I really wanted to knit a longer version, because the thing is, the ripple bralette, I am just not somebody who's going to be walking around town with just my bra, so I don't wear it out like a piece of clothing. I'm happy to have it. I sometimes, I wear it under things, I layer, blah, blah, blah. I still love it. It's a great knit, highly recommend it. But, it's not my most practical, most worn knit that I'm just out about town wearing on its own, right? But I love the knit. I wanted to make a longer version. So here you go. I think she does have a ripple cami pattern that is designed just it's not the ripple bralette pop pattern with added length. It looks very similar, but there's different details. I just knit the ripple bralette with added length. I didn't knit the cami or tank. Maybe she calls it the ripple tank. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to sort of specify that. So, and the thing that's really fun about this is that I used a sample skein of yarn that I had received of Pure Wash fingering. When I decided to develop Pure Wash fingering, I worked with a mill, going back and forth on what I wanted in the yarn, and this was the sample skein that they sent to me back in 2015. We dyed the yarn when we're experimenting with a new yarn base. There's sort of a couple of things colorways that we tend to dye to see how the yarn is going to take it. And so we dyed it in our Iris colorway, and it came out way more uniform than that. Previous to that, I was working mostly with superwash yarn, and when you dye on superwash yarn, it really grabs the color, and you get a lot of variegation. Whereas the pure wash yarn, because of the way it's not treated the same way, the colors really blend. And so it's just, we went with a variegated colorway to test the yarn to see how that was going to go. And the way that the color came out, it's my most favorite version of Iris ever. And Iris is not a color that's currently available, but as I'm looking at it, of course, I'm like, perhaps it should be. And yeah, so this was just a single skein that I had in my stash for years, since 2015, and I was keeping it for a special project because it felt very valuable and sentimental to me. And I didn't want to knit, I don't know what I didn't want to knit. I was going to say socks, because a single skein of yarn I would often turn into socks, but the Pure Wash fingering is not my favorite sock yarn. Pure Wash sock is. Tweed sock might be now, but I digress. The Pure Wash fingering, because it doesn't have the nylon, I tend not to use it for socks, because I have a pair of socks currently that's been sitting in my mending pile for a very long time, because I knit the toes in Pure Wash sock and they ran through faster than they should. So I'm going to rip out the toe and re-knit the toe in, oh my god, I think I just said Pure Wash sock. I'm so sorry. I knit the toes in Pure Wash fingering, and since they don't have nylon, I made a whole I'm very close to making a hole in both toes. And before things get too bad, I'm going to mend them. But they've been sitting there for months because that's how mending goes. So this tank, so cute. Absolutely love it. Was a very quick knit according to Ravelry. My dates are not always very accurate in my Ravelry projects to the day. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't always remember the exact day I cast on. I usually upload my projects when they're done, which is just the way I am. I try to be, whatever. The dates aren't the important thing, but I guess if you're looking at one of my projects and you're like, oh wow, she knit this in X number of days, you know, you can't always believe that. This says I knit it in a week. I believe that. I knit it quite quickly, and it's so cute. I will say, though, because I'm being brutally honest, it's not my most worn knit because I don't wear super fitted things like this anymore. It's great for layering. Like I should be wearing it possibly today under this. I 100% could be wearing it. But then I will add that I wear a strapless bra under it because I am 38 years old. I've nursed 3 kids and I'm just not really comfortable going braless. It's not because of the size of my breasts, because I have small breasts. It's just because of my own personal comfort level. And so I'd be wearing a strap. I'm not wearing a strapless bra. I guess if I was wearing this, I could wear whatever bra underneath that I wanted, because I'm not about to walk around my own house on a Thursday in a strapless bra for no reason. You know. So what does that mean? That means nothing. That means I'm looking at it now and I should be layering it under tops in the winter more. And then in the summer, I did wear it throughout the summer. It's just, again, my life is so casual that if I don't need to wear a strapless bra, I'm not going to. And so that's just really a personal thing, how much I wore it or didn't wear it. I think if I were like more social, if I were going places more, that I would have worn it more, because I think it's a very cute top. It's just not like for me, lounging around the house top. And I exclusively lounge around my house. So there you go. That's my feedback on that. It's not very helpful because I really like it. So I feel like I'm giving it like a lukewarm review when my true feelings about it are actually like fiery hot. So then the next knit on the list in July, I knit the Slanting Slip-On by Anne Wenzel. This I knit in our Willow DK. So for years, a couple of years now, we've stocked Willow. I stock the Willow yarns predominantly in the summertime because they're really a seasonal seller for me. There'll always be people who argue that, who say I should stock it all year long because not everybody lives in a cold climate. It's just nobody's buying it. I'm looking at shelves full of it. It's currently in stock, and it was available as part of our Boxing Day update. And a few people bought it, but like it just doesn't sell where it sells like crazy in the summer. And so I'm just not interested in devoting my time to big Willow updates in the winter when nobody wants it. I don't know why. I feel the need to explain that to you because somebody is going to be like, "Oh, I wish it was available in the winter," and I'm like, "Do you really though?" Because you're not buying it anyway. That's all fine. Like, it's seasonal. I don't mind at all that people aren't buying it in the winter. I'm just explaining. I'm explaining the business. So, this is what I wrote in my notes for this. The crispness, the texture, a new summer fave. So this was a beautiful pattern. I really think it's perfect for this yarn because of the texture, because of the stitch definition, how crisp those stitches are. I love the construction of the pattern. I thought the whole thing was just really clever. I did one minor modification, and I'll mention it just because that's what I'm doing. The Slanting Slip-On, it has extra short rows. Is it short rows or just length? It has you knit extra length. I don't think they're in short rows for the back versus the front before you join the yoke, and I guess that's for shaping. For me, that was unnecessary, and I think I did that and then ripped it out, because if I had done that, then the armholes would be really big. Too gaping for me. That's the one modification I made. It's probably specific to my body type. So just if you have a similar body type to me, you probably don't need that extra length on the back yoke. I have no other feedback for this other than I really enjoyed the knit. This I wore a lot this summer because this is a really Willow yarn. Is so comfortable in the summertime. It's really lightweight. I felt really good and kind of classy in this knit. I went out for a nice dinner with some girlfriends, and this is what I wore. And I highly recommend it for like a really cute summer top. And in DK, so it's really fast knit, all things considered, because there's no sleeves too, right? So then my Rocket Tee DK, I knit the Rocket Tee DK, the DK weight version with sleeves in the Willow DK. So this is another beautiful summer sweater. I wish that I had knit it earlier in the summer. This one, I knit it towards the end of the month of August. I think I finished it early September, and I could have worn it all summer long because even with the long sleeves, the fabric is just so lightweight and beautiful and drapey and really quite appropriate for summer. And yeah, this is a beautiful knit. That's all I can say about that. So this is my pattern that I've knit several versions of this. I've knit an all DK weight merino striped version. I've knit a version holding fingering and mohair together. And now I've knit this version in a linen silk blend. They're so different and they're so beautiful. And they all serve a different purpose in my wardrobe. And I love them all dearly. So you know I love a versatile pattern. And this is another older, not that old, Rocket Tee DK. I think I released it in 2020, but still great. Let's hope 2 years later it's still relevant. Next up, I knit a pair of socks. So far, so many of my knits are new patterns or other people's patterns. And here I just knit a pair of trusty toe-up socks using a bunch of scraps, added some lice stitch. Ew, why does it have such an itchy name? Lice stitch is just like when you knit one. They're polka dots, single stitch polka dots. Let's just call it that, can we? Yeah, just a cute little fancy sock. Love that. And actually, when I was knitting this reminds me that I really wanted to knit a sweater in this exact pattern. So I used the stripes. I would do a striped ribbed collar and cuffs. And then I would do a lice stitch body. A single stitch polka dot body. And I think like with I used like a slightly, it's a light speckle. The colorway that I used for the spots, for the polka dots, was our Summer Sock Club sock yarn. It was a colorway called Mocktail. And it's a variegated speckled light seafoamy color, and I used that for the dots, and so each one is kind of a different color, and it's really fun, and I would still like a sweater like that. So noted, I kind of had forgotten. This reminds me though that I don't think that any of the projects, we'll see if I come up upon them. I knit projects in the Summer Sock Club yarn, and I guess I haven't added them to Ravelry, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go off, I'm veering off of my plan. I don't have too many things left here to talk about. Well, I do. This is going to be a long video, friends, but I'm going to add the 2 projects that I knit with the Summer Sock Club yarn that aren't on my Ravelry project pages, but I will add them before this video goes live. So I didn't need to tell you all that, but now you know the behind the scenes. So I knit a pair of fingerless mitts in our Riot colorway that we did for the Summer Sock Club, and that was a really fun multicolored on cashmere sock yarn, and I knit a pair of like textured fingerless mitts that I think really made the most of that highly variegated skein that I absolutely love. And cashmere, come on, it's so lovely. And then I knit a really fun pair of little boxes socks by Summerly Knits in the sock set. I loved that sock set. It was maybe one of my favorites. I mean, I have so many favorites. I love so many different color combos, but this is a color combo that is like, well, you can sort of see because I knit a couple grello, gray, speckled gray and yellow, kind of chartreuse blended yellow color way projects this year, and that sock set has that vibe with that seafoam green added. These socks are so cute. Did I knit anything else with that? I thought I had knit more. Maybe there's more projects that aren't showing up here, but we'll just leave it at that. So I knit those, and that was really fun. And the Riot colorway, I'm sort of mildly obsessed with. I think it's really special, and I think I'm going to be doing a pre-order for it soon. Woohoo! So then we're into the adult Iggy Peck. I knit this for Chris, the adult versions, then I was finally able to publish this pattern. This pattern, I mean, I already said everything I had to say about it when I talked about the kid version. I absolutely love, I'm just so happy with how it came out. It was a real challenge for me. And it's, Chris absolutely loves it every time he wears it. I'm proud. And I love the Highland DK for color work. It's just really stunning. So I still want one for myself. Then, I knit the super adorable Boneyard Sweethearts by Stephanie Lotvin, a little skeleton and ghost hat pattern for my son, my middle son, who loves Halloween, loves all things kind of spooky. So when I saw this skeleton, I thought it was just like such a clever little, it's skeleton, it's Halloween, but it's cute because the way the ghost, like, it's not gross. I'm not going to this is already a long podcast, a long video, so I'm not going to go on about my feelings about Halloween. They're not positive, but I will say that, like, my son loves this hat, and it was a really fun little project. Great chart. Love the colors that I knitted in, and I recommend it. So then we're moving into my Cozier patterns. Wow, I did knit a lot of my own patterns, it feels. So Cozier is a chunky pullover sweater of my dreams that I designed this fall. I designed a knit too this fall. Both sweaters that I knit took 3 days because it's a chunky pattern. It's 12 stitches in 4 inches. That is 3 stitches per inch. That is a large gauge on 8mm needles. It is, I mean, yeah, it's like you can knit it in a couple of days. It's amazing. So I knit a scrappy version, was my first version. That was my vision for this pattern initially, was for it to be a multicolored, super fun textured sweater. And that's the first version that I knit. Really, really love it. My only thing that stops me from reaching for this sweater every single day is the fact that it's a little bit larger, it's a little bit longer, and therefore kind of heavier on me than I would like. I wear the second version of Cozier that I knit, which is the exact same pattern, but I knit it one size down. So the first one, I believe I knit in the size 44, and this I knit in the size 40 inch, which has quite a bit of positive ease on me. It's like the size that I would wear a sweatshirt in, but it provides like a good 8 inches of positive ease on. I have a 32 inch bust, so for the 40 inch, it gives me some nice positive ease, plenty, but I knit it a little bit more cropped. And so it just makes it less sweater to deal with. So the one that I knit in the solid colorway gets more wear because it's just a little bit less bulky, and I just find it a bit more comfortable. So I could and may, but no, I don't see myself ever ripping out the larger chunky one and shortening it. I think I would just gift it to somebody who's maybe a size bigger than me. So if I find that I'm really not wearing it. But that Cozier, yeah, I love that Cozier sweater pattern. It's so classic. It's so easy. You know what I mean? It's just so easy to wear. And yeah, I highly recommend it. If you're into chunky knits, if you want something that you can just throw on and be warm and clearly cozy and comfortable and cute, it's the thing. I love it. So, next step, finally we're branching out. I really haven't knit much this year that wasn't in my own yarn. So now I skipped something. I'm going to circle back. So, I mean, I know you guys don't really care about the chronological order of things, so don't worry about it. So here I knit an Antler Toque by Tin Can Knits in the Blue Brick Simcoe MCN, which is a merino cashmere nylon worsted weight yarn. So I knit a beautiful Antler Toque. I mean, look at this image of this toque. What more is there to say? The only thing, here's my feedback. What's my feedback? I mean, the results speak for themselves. They're absolutely beautiful. This yarn is MCN. I mean, that's really nice. I don't love knitting with superwash yarn anymore. And so it has a different feel. Like, it's just slicker and it's not as plump. So it took some getting used to. I remember when I was knitting with it, it was like, it just was some adjustment because I haven't knit with superwash in so long. And so that's my only feedback on that. That's my recollection of this project, that the results are absolutely beautiful. This pattern is a classic, and I'm crazy about the Blue Jay colorway. I actually purchased a sweater kit, a fingering weight yarn sweater kit in this color because I love this gray to blue, and I love Shireen, and from the Blue Brick. Shireen is the dyer and my personal friend. So, gorgeous hat. Let me see what I missed. Oh, the thing that I missed, I don't know how I jumped over it this summer. I knit the Ripple halter. So after the Ripple bralette, was the Ripple halter just released this summer? Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, June 2022. It was a new pattern. So as soon as I saw it, I totally loved it. And the sample that she has on the pattern is like in like a neon yellow. And I had in my stash, when it just goes to show like how influenced we are by the samples, I had in my stash a neon coral yarn that my sister brought back from a trip to Peru. So it's like, it claims, I mean, it was bought under the pretense that it's like authentic Peruvian wool. I'm fairly certain it's acrylic. There was no label on it or anything, and she just was like, oh, Tan likes wool, I'm going to buy this for her. It wasn't expensive. Really doesn't matter. The color is so vibrant that it's impossible to take photos of. And this is a really clever, really cute little pattern that I thoroughly enjoyed making and felt very hip when I was wearing it this summer. Another thing that I wish I was wearing under tops in the winter. I'm going to have to pull that one out. Do you know, I actually considered wearing that for today's episode because I wasn't wearing a knit on my body. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to throw this on. But then I was worried that the color is so bright that it's just going to be like really jarring in the video the whole time. So I'm not sure. I'm going to have to test, like see what it looks like on film before I commit to a whole video wearing that. But that's a really fun summer tank. I love a halter. I think it's just like a really super cute look. Oh my goodness. Now we're getting into like the past 2 months. We're getting there, guys. So back in November, I knit myself a scarf / shawlette, I'm not sure what you're going to want to call it, out of the yarn, the cashmere sock yarn that we included in the holiday sock club. So it's a colorway that's called Black Pink. No, it's called Pink Venom, which is a song by the band Blackpink. So I called it Pink Venom, this colorway, and I knit what is ostensibly a Sophie shawl. So, context, I filmed a whole video yesterday that I couldn't use, like that I decided to scrap because I went on so many weird tangents. And one of the tangents was what I'm about to do right now. So I'm going to stop myself. I knit this pattern before the Sophie shawl was released. It's not a Sophie shawl in that I can't speak to the pattern. I'm sure the pattern is great because Petite Knit is a very proficient pattern designer. But I used the Ray scarf pattern by Jane Richmond, which is a pattern that just has you increase at a certain rate until you've used half of your yarn and then decrease for the rest of the way. That's what I did, and I added a slip stitch edging, the slip stitch edging that I used on my swish scarf and a bunch of other patterns. And now that I say that, I now realize that I haven't discussed the swish scarf. Is it here? I'm a mess. This is a hard concept. No, it's not on my project page. I'm going to have to add that too. So I knit this beautiful shawl. Absolutely love it. A single skein project. It was so satisfying and perfect for a variegated skein of yarn. Really happy with how it turned out. And if you want to knit the exact same thing and you want a pattern that says exactly what to do, I suspect that the Sophie shawl is going to give you exactly that. But as I say, that I didn't use that pattern. I don't know what the rate of increase and decrease is. I don't know what style of increase and decrease she uses. But judging from the images, I think it's going to give you a very similar look. Or use the Ray scarf by Jane Richmond and add the slip stitch edging from my free swish scarf. So how about we talk about that swish scarf? So the swish scarf was a free pattern that I launched in either the month of November or December, and it's for a brioche scarf. and a 2-color brioche scarf. It has a zigzag, and it's a great first brioche project. You can use it in 2 colors, or you can use as many colors as you want. I have plans to knit another version in more colors. It's my first brioche pattern. I was very excited about that. And I just love a scarf, you know. I said that. I've spoken about this swish scarf in a previous episode, and I still feel like scarves get a bad rap that people don't. People love shawls and cowls. I also love shawls. I'm not really a cowl as much person. When I do wear a cowl, I like it to be tight. I want it to be like, we call them a cache-cou, which translates to hide neck, a neck hider. So like a neck warmer is more my cowl style. Regardless, I love a scarf. I love the swish scarf, and I'm also proud of that design because it's something new for me. So this year, the brioche. So there's a couple things that I was quite proud of this year, and that feels good to look back on. Okay, since I'm going to be talking about, the next project that I knit from the Holiday Sock Club is this hat. This is an Oslo hat by Petite Knit. This is the actual Petite Knit pattern. It's not a version that I Frankensteined. So I used 2 strands of the tweed sock held together, knit the Oslo hat. Absolutely love it. I love knitting with our tweed sock yarn, 2 strands held together, which you'll see with an upcoming project. We're really getting near the end here, guys, so bear with me. So the third project that I knit with our Holiday Sock Club yarn is I call them the Frankenstein socks. They're a pair of socks that I knit for Chris that feature the Holiday Sock Club sock set. The colorways were called Winter's Morn, which was a speckled neutral kind of blue-gray color with some green in there as well, some kind of golden speckles. And then I used the evergreen mini skein that was paired with it. It was also paired with a red mini skein called Cherry. I didn't use the cherry, I only used the evergreen. I put some stripes at the top. The whole sock is ribbed. I put some corrugated ribbing stripes in the middle. I striped the toe in a different stripe sequence. And then I added cables down the heel, which is why I call them the Frankenstein socks, because they are just a mishmash, a little bit of everything. It's like you took all these different socks and mashed them together. And Chris loves them. He says they fit really, really well because he loves a ribbed sock is just such a nice fitting sock. So they were a success. Perhaps I have notes. Maybe I'll release the pattern. So stay tuned for that. Next, we're really close to the end here. The 3 patterns that I knit for my kids for Christmas. I knit a Kai Fella, I'm clicking on it, by Knitwits and Yarns. I know his name is Brendan, but I guess he goes by Knitwits and Yarns on Ravelry. And it's this beautiful checkerboard sweater. I knit this for my 9-year-old son. It looks fantastic on him, a little oversized, and it also happens to look fantastic on me so that when he eventually outgrows it, I'll wear it. This one I knit in our Highland DK as well, which I love. I love that yarn for sweaters. I just think it makes for a really light fabric. It's really comfortable and warm. More woolly if you're somebody who's sensitive to wool, or if you're knitting for a child who's sensitive to wool, Pure Wash DK would be a better bet. But I love a woolliness, and so for me, it's perfect. It wears really well also in terms of being sturdy, non-pilling and stuff. I'm not going to say it will never pill, but go over it with the gleaner once or twice. It wears really well. So I love this sweater. I really struggled with the randomness of the color placement, though in the pattern, the designer includes a really handy chart that I colored in multiple different color combinations before I settled on the color combo that I went with. I ended up going with something, where all the colors were quite similar. It's all blues and grays. There's no dramatic pop of color in there. And for me, that's what felt worked the best. It was really hard. The more colors I tried to use, the kind of just crazier it ended up looking, and I wasn't happy with it. But the place we landed, I am so happy with. And then I knit for my middle son, a striped Gramps cardigan by Tin Can Knits. The Gramps cardigan has a beautiful shawl collar and pockets, both of which I omitted for my version. The pockets I can add on at any time, so perhaps I will. But the shawl collar, I I just wanted like an easy throw on cardigan. And I know that my son would never be like, adjusting his collar. He very often, if he puts on a shirt like this with a collar, the collar is half in, half out. Like he's just not very meticulous with his clothing, and a shawl collar kind of needs to be put on and folded. So anyway, I just opted not to do any of the shawl collar. I just did sort of about 1.5 inches of ribbing all around the thing. I also didn't sew any buttons on it, which is hysterical, because I purposely didn't sew buttons on it because I knew that he wanted a cardigan that he was just going to be wearing open. I did make buttonholes, and he's just, 7-year-olds are so funny. I also bought him a cardigan for Christmas because he's really into cardigans, okay? And he doesn't have any. So I made him one and I bought him one. And the one that I bought him naturally has buttons. And he was like, yeah, I'm less into that one because of the buttons. And I was like, well, you don't have to do up the buttons. It's still a cardigan. And I think literally the quote from him was like, yeah, this sweater wishes it was a cardigan, but this is a real cardigan. Meaning the one without the buttons that I made him. So I thought that was really funny that he really doesn't like a button up. He doesn't like buttons on his cardigan. He doesn't mind the buttonholes, but no buttons. So I'm in no rush to find buttons to sew on because obviously they will be wholeheartedly rejected. But he loves the sweater, really loves cardigans. He wore it back the first day of school, and his teacher made an appropriately large deal about it, so that's always very exciting. And the tweed sock held double, makes a really, really beautiful worsted weight fabric. And now I'm using all of the leftovers from that the cardigan that I made him to knit socks, because I've got plenty. I knit a pair of socks for my dad. Let's talk about it. I knit the Cider House socks by Summer Lee Knits in the caramel colorway, caramel tweed, left over from this sweater that I knit for my son, and then also the sand tweed left over from the sweater, and then I used the cherry mini skein that was from the Holiday Sock Club mini skein or sock set, and I used the evergreen for Chris's socks, and then I used the cherry for the stripes at the top of the Cider House socks for my dad. So I gave my dad those for Christmas, and he loved them, and they're a really comfortable, really classic cushy sock. The stripes make it. I think they're so cute, and I'm already knitting a second pair, but those aren't part of today's because they were not completed in 2022. I'm down to my last FO, guys. My last FO of 2022, and we are over an hour. I've never done a video over an hour. So my last FO of 2022 that I have to discuss is the hand-spun tutu top that I knit for my daughter. I did an entire video before Christmas dedicated to this top because it is absolutely delightful and just brings me so much joy. And my daughter actually likes it, guys. She likes it. Who would have thought? It's a t-shirt, but it's a sweater, and that should be confusing for her. I purposely made it a t-shirt. The pattern has sleeves, but I made it a t-shirt because we know she runs hot, and I wasn't sure if she would wear the sweater so much. And I just think that the style of it, with the tutu, with the mohair skirt, it suits the t-shirt really well. So I did a t-shirt length, and she has worn it a number of times with no issue. The main yarn in it, the hand spun, it's superwash merino, hand spun, hand dyed yarn by yours truly, and it is really, really soft. It's like incredibly soft, and so I don't know if that has something to do with it, with her embracing of this tutu top. I think she likes the skirt too. She really enjoys the whole style of the top. It was a really good choice for her. So that was a risk. She's just in a stage where she's not the easiest to knit for. Having said that, she does wear hats every day and stuff. It just needs to be a fun color for her. That's really her main issue, is one of color. I mean, and I like color. Just don't knit this child a gray sweater. She's not interested. So this bright blue one, she's into. She loves it. She's worn it. And, I'm very happy about that because I think it's so adorable. And I think that's a wrap, guys. I think that that's everything that I knit in 2022. For sure, there were a few projects that I started and never completed, like just kind of abandoned. I know that I have the ugliest sock I've ever knit. I have one waiting for a mate that may never come because I just hate that sock so much. So that's not included in this list. And then I have a couple of projects that I'm still working on, like my Paul Klee sweater that I started in 2022, but I have not yet completed, and it's kind of, I am actively working on it, but it's not my main project at the moment, because I'm just knitting miles and miles of stockinette stitch in the round. And you know what? It's at that stage where I do this so classically, where I have my doubts about the fit. Like I'm not 100% confident about it. So I'm just letting it draw out rather than making any type of decision, deciding whether it needs to be frogged or whether, how everything's going to work out with it and figuring that out. I'm just like avoiding it. That's what's happening. But it is at a point where I can, put the stitches on a holder and try it on. And the problem is not going to have to all be frogged. I'm worried that I chose to knit a size too large in the body. I'm sure the yoke is going to be fine. And so the worst thing that I would have to do is literally just undo a couple of inches of the body that I've knit, cast on fewer stitches for the underarm, and that everything will be fine. But I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. I just don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to have to deal with it. And then the other work in project progress that I currently have that's really exciting, and that if you follow me on Instagram, you see me going on about a lot, is a sunburst granny square Afghan. As soon as something is crocheted, I call it an Afghan. Do not ask me why. So I'm making a scrappy crocheted square blanket, and it is that is like my main project right now that I'm really into, because I have 80 squares done. I started this on New Year's Eve, and today we are the 12th, and I've been working on a sock in between, so it's not the only thing that I've been doing. But crochet squares, it takes me less than 15 minutes to knit one square. I don't know what the math is on that, on how many hours I've already put into this, but it's less than a knitted blanket, that's for sure. It's much faster, and it is so exciting. I'm just so into it. I think at this point I'm going to go for 99 squares. I think I'm going to make it 9 by 11 squares. And so I have to root around and find 19 more scraps to get to that place. Yeah, we'll see. That's why it's kind of slowing down a little bit, because I'm running out of scraps. I've done all DK weight, and then I've done some in fingering held together, and I've done some in worsted weight, and they're a little bit different, and so I'm just sort of mulling over whether I want to just dive in, use the rest in worsted, or maybe do some repeat colors in the DK if I want to just keep it more DK. I'll probably end up doing some more fingering held double, because I just have so much fingering. I'm not breaking into any fresh skeins for this project. That's just like a self-imposed boundary. I'm sure I'll do another video more specifically on that. So let's just wrap it up. We're at almost 110, an hour. We're over an hour. I mean, I don't even know what more I need to tell you about that. So 2022, a year in review. Fewer patterns released towards the end of the year than the beginning. I really came out of the gate hot, came out swinging, and then kind of lost steam on pattern design. But, I'm so proud of what I was able to accomplish in 2022. And I think that I got a lot of good knits in there. Can't wait to see what 2023 has in store for us knit-wise. I don't have any real massive plans. Now that I'm working so much scrappily with this blanket, I'm for sure thinking scrappy knits. I'm kind of excited about that striped and spotted sweater that I just remembered that I wanted to do by going through this and finding that sock that I liked. Yeah, so stay tuned for all that. Thanks for hanging in. If you have watched this far, God bless you. And like and subscribe, follow me on Instagram. You know the drill. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.